Okay, so doing a impromptu middle of the week recording. I'm still going to have this video come out on the weekend, but I forgot it was Mother's Day weekend. This coming weekend. I thought it was the next weekend. That kind of throws my schedule and plans for doing this stuff. It kind of messes things up. So recording something quick tonight so I have something to release over the weekend. And what I had sort of been planning, building up to maybe doing for the weekend will just be for next weekend, because I've finally picked out and acquired some editing software and playing around with it a little bit this week. Hopefully that's going to let me move forward with some of the other types of videos that I want to do for this channel, other than me just, sitting here farting around with the game and talking, nonsense. I'm also fairly tired tonight, which hopefully goes better than my last video that I recorded while tired. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Again, going to play NES tonight. And this is another, as with all the games I'm selecting for these kinds of videos, this is one that I'm quite familiar with, played a lot as a kid. And, I stand some chance of being able to let my muscle memory handle the gameplay while I say something to the camera. Because if I try to play something new to me, or something even that I'm a little bit hazy on, maybe I don't remember it quite so well, I can only imagine that my attention would be absorbed by the game, and my ability to talk into the mic would just out the window. Not that it's much in the window right now anyway. But anyway, so the game for tonight is going to be Nintendo World Cup. Oh yeah. Yeah. Isn't that so lovely and direct? Just straight to the point. There's no splash screens, no logos, nothing. As soon as you start the game, bam, title screen, music kicks off. Hey, what do you want to play? It's kind of brilliant in its simplicity nowadays. So, yeah, this is one that I sort of inherited with a stack of NES games that had belonged to one of my uncles. This was towards the end of the NES days. He was done with his system, and so I got a bunch of his games, and I had never even really known about his stash of NES games. So these came out of nowhere to me. And they included a bunch of different games, like Double Dribble, Double Dragon 3, Track and Field, Nintendo World Cup. I know I'm forgetting some. Yeah, I am forgetting some, but anyway, so Nintendo World Cup was in that mix. And, sports game. Yeah, I dismissed it pretty early on, and as I did with a lot of sports games back then. It's just, they weren't my bag. And, I put it to the side until one of those things, just bored out of your mind one day, looking for something new to play, and I went ahead and reached for Nintendo World Cup. And I was completely surprised by the game, because this is not your typical soccer game, not your typical sports game. It has a lot of personality. It has, big animated character sprites. It's fun. It's arcadey, and it's full contact, which made a huge difference for me as it comes to find out, because the sports games that I over time have gravitated towards are the ones that you can be kind of brutal. You know, a Nintendo World Cup with being able to tackle other players to the point where they just stop getting back up. I used to laugh so much at that whenever just the entire opposing team would be unconscious on the field. I'd just be running around with the ball. Wonderful. But then with later games like NFL Blitz, certainly NHL Hits, even the Mario sports games to some extent, they just have great arcade gameplay, but they've got a little bit of that edge of extra violence, extra contact, especially like the Mario Strikers games. Oh, those are so good. Or Mutant League Football, Mutant League Hockey. I'm telling you, you let me play a game where it's no holds barred on being able to just attack the other team. I'm in. I'm totally in. So anyway, Nintendo World Cup. We'll do tournament mode. No passwords today. Now, the first time I ever played this, I was like, okay, whatever. Team USA, right, baby? Yeah. Picked USA. You play against, Cameroon first, and they're the Glass Joe of the soccer league, let's be honest. And managed to beat them. I think even my first time playing, didn't know what I was doing, probably still managed to beat them. And then in round 2, when you're playing as USA, or I think as anyone else, you face off against Japan. And Japan obliterated me. I stood no chance. So after that, I was like, well, crap, if you can't beat them, join them. So I went ahead, and my next game, I chose Japan to play as, and that's it. That's how they became my team. Plain and simple. So, yeah, Team Japan all the way. So good. Now, this is another interesting part of it, because I remember early on, whenever I was playing this, I didn't change the positions or anything. And I'd be playing, and I could not help but notice, hey, one of those guys hanging out in the backfield looks way cooler than the guy I'm playing as. Check him out, number 2, Ricky. If you're not familiar with the game... Oh, wait, no, didn't mean to do that. Crap. Oh, no! Tell you what. I hit the wrong button. It's been a while since I played. Alright, we'll do it this way. Yes. Okay. And really, outside of Ricky, I never... really even bothered to match the other characters' faces to their names, because I just didn't care that much. So I never had, like, set spots for the other characters or anything. But you know what? The goalie's the hero. Why not? We're gonna throw... let's get Kenji in this time. Why not? And Makoto. They get left out, so we'll put them at least in the backfield. Now, of course, myself playing as Ricky, and if you're not familiar with the game, you will soon see why. Of course, ultimately this, at the time I had no idea of this, but this is part of the sort of that Kunio-kun family of games with River City Ransom and a lot of different, a lot of other different sort of fighting games and sports games, funny enough. Featuring this cast of characters. Super Dodgeball is another one that we actually did get localized over here. A lot of them never did come over. So Kunio, he's kind of like the main, character. We'll let him play as well. And then Masao. Yeah, that looks good. In here, usually leave the strategies the same. Just mark the opponent. I'll tell you what to do. No, goalie, don't join in. That I've never had that end in anything other than disaster. Just dribble. I'll let you know if I want you to pass me the ball. But when it comes to shooting, yeah, every so often I want you to just shoot on your own. If you see a good opportunity, take the shot. Alright, dude, check me out. You see the flat top, the cool shades? Oh, he's awesome looking. Especially like back in the late 80s. It had to be whenever I was playing this. Like, dude, he's basically the Terminator on the field. Look at him. As soon as I saw him, my first time playing in Japan in that other spot, I was just like, how do I gotta switch him in? And of course, I was kind of an idiot kid back then, didn't pay attention to the numbers. So the first time I was trying to do it, I was just going through and picking each character until I finally found, oh yeah, this is the one. Let's see if I remember how to do this. So yeah, I always liked the ability that you could sort of direct your team. Whenever one of your guys controls the ball, you can hit A to have them pass the ball, or hit B to tell them to take a shot. Or if the other team has possession, you hit B, tell them to slide tackle, or hit A to tell them to do a just a full body tackle. Very simple, but very effective. And of course there, I just did one of my super shots, which I remember, it was a couple times me playing the game. It was one of those things where the computer did super shots to me first, long before I realized they were a thing in the game. And again, no internet back then. I didn't even have the manual for this one because of how I inherited it from my uncle. And no strategy guides, no Nintendo Power talking about it. I had no idea how you did the super shots. Oh, come on, dude. And I don't even remember how I originally figured it out. But the way that I originally figured out how to do a super shot, and the way you actually do it is, it depends on which team, which player, sort of thing. I don't remember exactly. But it's like you have a certain number of steps that you take before you take the shot. For just the most basic way to do a super shot. There's a couple of other ways. One is you can kind of do the bicycle kick like that. If you connect with the bicycle kick, that turns into a super shot. And then there's the headbutt too. I cannot do the headbutt. Never have been able to do it. No, too much. But figuring out those number of steps, I had no idea that's what it was. And I eventually, go ahead and knock him out. Alright, pass the ball back to me. This is what I did. I started measuring it, basically. And I would start by starting here in my own goal, and I would walk out a certain distance and then try to shoot. And eventually I realized, okay, if I start here, and my soccer terminology is very rusty. I don't remember what the different parts of the field markings are called. But if you basically walk up to here and shoot, you get a super ball. Bam, right there. And again, there's a different number of steps for different teams, players, that kind of stuff. So that's not going to work in all cases. But it's basically like 3 steps for Japan to do it. But you only get like so many super shots per halftime or something like that. It's been a while. And I mean, as you've... yeah, I cannot time that one. Woohoo! Cameroon is terrible, okay? Understand. Like, I can only imagine people... Anyone that actually lived in Cameroon that ever played this game probably just immediately took the cartridge out and snapped it in half because of how horrible... Or I don't know, maybe this was accurate of, you know, how well they played in you know, their soccer or football team back in the day. I don't know. Maybe back then they'd play the game and they'd be like, yeah, we get it. I don't know. Let's see if I can still do this one. I could be pretty decent at timing this. Ah, I'm gonna get one of those. Of course, the sprite flicker in this game is off the chart. Oh, another cool thing about the game, I'm really rambling on this one, is you see the little mini map there at the bottom of the screen. What a brilliant way to handle it, because this was another thing that I loved about Nintendo World Cup that I never cared for with most other sports games back then. In this one, you don't switch players. You're locked in as one of the players, and the computer's handling the rest. I like that. I don't want to play the entire team. Let's go for another bicycle kick. So that was another major win for me, and I think that... There we go. And I think that the way the game does the mini-map down there is a fantastic solution to letting you navigate the field without always being on the screen. It's just... Yeah, I mean, I can hit it. There's supposed to be, I think... You can get super shots off of that headbutt. I don't think I've... Oh, sorry, bud. I don't think I've ever been able to pull it off. There we go. I don't remember back when I was really good what my highest score against Cameroon was. I mean, it's like you see this guy with the bugging out eyes. That's probably because of how badly the shutouts I did to their team in the past were. That 1,000-yard stare he's got going on is from those past matches. I never really tried playing through the tournament mode very seriously. This was always more of a game I just fire up to mess around, play, you know, smash Cameroon, maybe play against Team USA, because they're the second slot team now that I'm playing as Japan. Ooh, And I may do that. Oh, well, that works. Actually, I think you can even cheese these guys. Oh, we're not going to do it with 3 seconds. Again, I feel like I'm rambling really randomly tonight. Because I'm trying to think, what was I saying? I realized just like throughout this so far, I've left loose threads all the way through. Again, as you have likely observed, the level of impact in the game is fantastic, and especially to the point where you just have players laying unconscious on the field is so good. And again, even being able to like shoot the ball and hit characters that way and everything, it's just fantastic. Let me see if I can cheese them. Not gonna be there. Let me do it here. Let my team handle this one. That won't be that one. Maybe. Ooh! Oh, yeah. By the way, if you ever play the game, don't pick a fight with the goalies. You will not win. They are brutal. There used to be a certain place you could ask for the ball to be passed to, where it would hit the ground and just bounce over the goalie's head. At least with the early teams. I don't think you can get away with those kind of shenanigans against the later team goalies. But the other great thing about this one, as you saw from the title screen, is one, you have 2-player tournament mode. So this mode where you're working through the World Cup, or the Nintendo World Cup, can be played co-op, which is fantastic. Now, unfortunately, I never got to enjoy that because my best friend and gaming partner in crime at the time, he had just moved away to another state. Maybe, well, I don't remember exactly, but shortly before that's impressive when Cameroon stops a super shot. That doesn't happen very often. But I had inherited these games not long after he moved away. So this stack of games that I'd gotten, I didn't actually get to play with my best friend from the time. Yeah, and he was it was my buddy Aaron. And he was the one that we played his copy of Super Dodgeball a bunch, his copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. I had the first Turtles game, he had the second one. And back then, it was all about Turtles 2. Turtles 1 was sort of seen as like I guess, by us kids, because it just wasn't it wasn't the Ninja Turtle cartoon. Just the aesthetic of it, the enemies, the way it plays, not like Turtles 2, the arcade game was. See, this is a great one for me to talk to, because I can just hang out here and not actually play and just let them do the thing. It's basically a demo mode. Let's go for another bicycle kick. Yeah, I forgot to hold up on that one to aim it up. And, oh man, playing Double Dragon 2. Again, his copy. I did have Battletoads at the time, but Aaron and I didn't get into it too well. It was, another year or two later, whenever I moved to a different area, and I met my buddy Charlie, and then, I think the combination of me being a little bit older and then the chemistry with Charlie, that's whenever we got into Battletoads. But with Aaron, it was all about, Double Dragon, Ninja Turtles, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We played a lot of that, really just to fire it up and run around the city, try and get the weasels to chase us, especially if you got Benny the Cab. That was like, the proto GTA running from the cops experience. And of course the Mario games, yeah, I've played a ton of those with Aaron, especially Super Mario Brothers 3. We'd play the 2-player Mario Brothers arcade mini game inside of it. We would just fire that up and just run around and not actually play it to take on the enemies. We would just play it competitively to see who could survive the longest while trying to mess each other up. I don't know, maybe Ricky can't do the super shot with the headbutt. Maybe that's why I've never been able to pull it off. Who knows? Again, I'm leaving loose threads everywhere. It's just, idea fragments. That's what's going on with this this video. Also saying, oh yeah, well, finally tracing back to my original point in this particular tangent. So I got Nintendo World Cup a little bit after I lost Aaron. So I didn't have a co-op buddy to play the game with. And I was always really bummed about that because I remember upon realizing what the game was, it would have been perfect for the two of us. Oh, we would have had a blast. And then later on, I think I must have shown it to Charlie, but for whatever reason, maybe the chemistry just wasn't there for playing this kind of game with him or something. We never did. Now, I did have another group of friends that I did not see on a regular day-to-day basis. They were, the children of a friend of my grandparents. So I would see them very sporadically, typically more during, summer vacation time. But I do remember there was one day, a bunch of them were over, and I actually got to go into the more strictly versus mode of this one, and finally got to play this one 4-player mode. Because again, as you saw on the title screen, 4 players. I mean, how cool was that? Because thankfully, another thing that I had inherited from my uncle was his NES 4 score. So I could actually, and plus a bunch of other controllers, so I could actually take advantage of the 4-player games. And it was with this group of other kids that I did that, both with Nintendo World Cup here and also with Gauntlet 2. And man, Gauntlet 2. Gauntlet 2 on the NES, I loved that game so much. And especially 4-player, it's how it was meant to be done. Oh my god. I've never had as much fun with any other Gauntlet game as I did playing Gauntlet 2 on the NES with 4 people. Even whenever I got really into Gauntlet Legends later on with the on the Nintendo 64, it still never... It was more of a... Gauntlet Legends was a little bit more of a... what am I trying to call it? Like kind of a serious game, in a sense? Or... not serious as in tone, but... Gauntlet 2 is wild. The stage design, the kind of hazards, the situations it puts you in, it's a little bit of the theater of the absurd. And Gauntlet Legends was a little bit more straight-laced than that. And plus a lot of the other Gauntlets that I had played. But Gauntlet Legends 2, I mean, it's just... between... like some of the stages that have like the teleporting aspects to it, trying to actually get 4 kids through some of those teleporting mazes when you're all having to share the same screen, it's absolutely absurd and hilarious. But anyway, I'm not talking about Gauntlet 2 right now. Let's close the threads. So yeah, was able to play Nintendo World Cup 4-player a couple times with those guys, and it was so great. And again, the mini map works so well for accommodating the different players, because each of the player gets their own Roman numeral roaming around the map. Now, the only thing I didn't like about the versus mode so much is it has a lot of different maps you can choose from, and a lot of them have little obstacles like stones and stuff that you can trip on. I hated those, because what did not work well with this design were those kind of hazards, because you would trip over them even when you were off screen. So if there were a bunch of the rocks on the field and you were down on the opposite side of the field from the ball, you'd be running into them and tripping on them because you couldn't actually see where your character was relative to them. So I never liked those maps in the versus mode. Just wasn't my thing. Something funny I was just thinking about as I was rambling like a madman throughout all that. Back in the day, now either with RGB modded systems or emulation, be it software emulation or like FPGA emulation with the analog system I'm playing on right now, you get fantastic screen clarity, which you didn't necessarily get back playing, let's be honest, what kid really wasn't playing NES and even Genesis and Super Nintendo, all that stuff, over RF cables? I mean, we all were. And CRTs that, had varying degrees of quality. So there were a lot of things in old video games that you would see the sprite, but you wouldn't really understand it. You'd be like, I can't quite tell what that is. And one of those things, I remember the first one I ever encountered was in Pitfall for the Intellivision. The scorpions in the underground, I couldn't tell what they were. I was also very young at the time, so that was another factor. But I couldn't tell what they were, and so I thought they were actually like skulls or something. But in this one, I'm going to have to engineer a situation so we can see it. Okay, yeah, you see whenever he got hit by the super shot there, his eyes bugged out. I never could tell that that's what that white part of the animation was as a kid, that those were the eyes bugging out. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know if it was like I really had no idea, but at the very least, the thought that it was their eyes popping out from the impact of the hit never occurred to me. The other amazing thing about playing NES back then, I played this game a lot as a kid, and then Super Nintendo came out, got that, played it, and it was some years later, pulled the NES out again, was playing some of my old games for it, and of course I played this as well. Or wait, no, this one I did not play whenever I pulled the NES back out again. I didn't revisit this one until I got into emulation in high school. That's right. And I remember firing Nintendo World Cup up in whatever emulator I was using at the time. And I saw the sprite flicker going on, and I was like, man, the emulation quality is horrible for this game. Because back then, it was very common, most games would have some kind of rendering issues or other bugs or something with emulation. It was not very mature. This was late 90s. And I saw the sprite flicker in the emulator, and I was just like, man, this is terrible. So that was when I pulled out my original Nintendo and was like, I'll just play it on here. And then I'm playing it, and I'm like, wait, what? Why is all the sprite glitching happening here as well? And that was actually the... really? That was the first time I ever became really conscious of sprite flicker on the NES, even though I grew up with the system and played a ton of it, including a lot of games, this one being one of them, that I know have notorious sprite flicker. And yet, wow, I'm surprised that worked. Go team. But it amazes me that I didn't see this as a kid. this never entered my mind as a thing, as a phenomenon that was happening. I don't know how that is. Oh, you punk. Gotcha. Yeah. I don't remember how far I've played into the tournament before. Maybe 4 or 5 games in. I don't remember. It is a game that I love enough that one of these days I do need to find someone to chain to the couch with me and make them play the co-op tournament. Because, again, since being a kid, I've always wanted to do that. So it's almost like it's one of those gaming bucket list items. It's like, man, I really would like to do that at some point in my life. You know, and other gaming bucket list items, as far as like playing games, you know, I've got like some bucket list, are those, that's not so much a bucket list, as, yeah, I have some like white whales in collecting. Although this particular one is kind of a bucket list. I'm rambling again. But one of the ones in terms of collecting stuff or acquiring stuff is one of these days I'm going to have to track down a Nintendo 64 DD disk drive. Not because there's anything practical on it that I really want to play. I have to have it so that I can finally say I got a Nintendo 64 DD. Because you have to understand, it was, what, 7th grade? 6th or 7th grade? When the 64 DD was still an upcoming item for the 64. And I was reading about this thing in magazines, and it was promising to basically close the gap between the Nintendo 64 and the PS1 as far as a lot of the storage concerns back then were. And ultimately, no, it wouldn't have gotten anywhere close. But, you know, that 7th grade self was so looking forward to the system. And again, this was the first time that I had been engaged enough in gaming news and upcoming stuff to know about systems on the way. Because like during the NES, Genesis, Super Nintendo, those systems just magically appeared on the store shelf one day as far as I was concerned. But with the Nintendo 64, I had started to pick out some video game magazines on the occasions I could get one, so that I could see, hey, what's coming. And I was so looking forward to the 64 DD. And then, of course, it winds up getting canceled, ever to be localized. Although apparently it got way further along than we ever thought, because, you know, a few years ago, whenever Metal Jesus Rocks somehow stumbled on an actual North American model, it just, how does that even happen? I'm rambling again. Oop. Ah, yeah. I almost thought I was about to go in there. But yeah, one of these days I have to get one just to have on the shelf attached to one of my Nintendo 64s, so that that part of me can be like, there it is. There it is. I have it. It's stupid, but it's a thing with me. But actual, you know, the original start of this sub-tangent. Like gaming bucket list things to do, to play. Yeah, being able to play through this tournament mode co-op and finally do that'd be cool. One of the big ones for me, I never could get this, pull this together, is Mario Kart Double Dash, 4 GameCubes, land together for 16-player Double Dash. I wanted to do that so bad back in the day, but unfortunately, I was really the only one in my group of friends at the start of the GameCube life cycle that had a GameCube. So I didn't even have anyone else I could go to and say, hey, let's get this going. But even that was beside the point. Because even if I could have found 3 other GameCubes that actually had the broadband adapters in them, with 3 other copies of Double Dash, and a dozen other controllers, I still would have had to find 15 other players that I could get together to do that. It never happened. And nowadays, the prospects are like, are you kidding me? Like, where on earth would I find that many people at this stage in my life? The only hope I have is if my daughter grows up to be into games, and then she also gets a bunch of lackeys that I can rope into it, and I can, satisfy that item through proxy of setting it up for her and her friends and stuff. But even that I see as being extremely unlikely. So, oh well. This video's already gone longer than I was intending, and it felt like I was rambling like a madman, which there's 2 symptoms that happen whenever I get tired. There's 2 kinds of tired. The one from my 2 Crew Dude video was more of a sleepy tired. So I just was not all there. And then this one is more of a, I'm not sleepy right now, but I am just tired. I'm exhausted. I'm fatigued. And for whatever reason, whenever I get into that state, I do get just a little bit rambly. So, kudos to anyone who has listened to all of the drivel in this particular video. That's impressive. Although I would say you probably should find something better to do with your time. Alright, but yeah, I'm going to call it at that. And now that I have some editing software, I've got a few other video projects that I'm working on that I was waiting for that. Once I figure it out and can start doing what I want. Maybe by next weekend I can have another sort of video to put up on the channel. That's going to be my goal. And I'll probably still keep doing these, whatever the heck these videos are, me just playing and rambling, for a little, as a regular thing for a little bit longer, just to give me something reliable that I can do. But I'm going to be looking to sort of phase these out as the primary content. I'll probably still do one of these every so often, or something like them. Maybe I can find some better ways to do them later, but that's the plan right now. So I've got a lot of work to do if I'm gonna figure everything out and get the different components together by next weekend, but it's good to have a goal. It's good to have a challenge. Let's see if I can pull it off. But until next time, see you later.